All right, we're on page 84. Again, this is a mix of adding, subtracting, multiplying fractions, and mixed numbers. Sometimes these get pretty tricky, but like I said, I'll do my best to help you understand what the operation is, and then I'll review with you the steps in order to solve those. Number 22 reads, one container holds 1 7/8 quarts of water, and a second container holds 5 3/4 quarts of water. How many more quarts of water does the second container hold than the first? I bet you recognize this as subtraction. One's bigger than the other. We're going to get a chance to show you how to regroup, or you probably know that as borrow. We're going to borrow on this one. So the larger container is 5 3/4, and we're going to minus 1 7/8. And so if we rewrote this vertically, in fact I'm going to do that right now. If we rewrote this vertically, minus 1 7/8, you'll see that it would be easy to do 5 minus 1, but it's not easy to do these for two reasons. One, we don't have a common denominator, but watch how easy that'll be to fix. If I just multiply 4 times 2, I get 6/8. So this one's going to be 5 6/8 minus 1 7/8. Now if you try to solve that right now, you would recognize that you can't do 6/8 minus 7/8. You could do 5 minus 1, but you can't do 6 minus 7. This numerator really needs to be bigger than this numerator. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow. This isn't too hard. We're going to go borrow from the 5 here, making it 4. That makes sense, doesn't it? 4 minus 1, we could do our whole number right now. 4 minus 1 is 3. So our answer is going to be 3 and something. So how much should we just borrow? We borrowed 1 whole. Would you agree? Well, in this problem, 1 whole is equal to 8/8. And we had 6/8, so we're going to add 8/8 to it because that's a whole. Remember, we borrowed 1 whole to make it from 5 to 4. We borrowed 1 whole. 6/8 plus 8/8 is going to be 14/8. And now I have a numerator that's larger than this numerator, so I could subtract 14 minus 7 is 7. And the denominator we don't subtract, we just get 8s. It's 3 7/8. That's the answer to number 20. There's a unit too. 3 7/8. And we're talking about quarts. So 3 7/8 quarts. That is the answer to number 22. It's the first one I can remember that I can think of where we've had to borrow. So that's a new skill for you. Kind of hard, but you did it. Good job. All right, let's check out 22. Nope, I'm sorry, that was 22. Let's check out 23. We're going to try all 3 parts of this. They all go together. This is one of those problems where it goes together really well. All right, number 23 reads, each of 15 students will give a 1.5 minute speech in English class. How long will it take to give the speeches? So we've got 15 kids, and they're all going to give 1.5 minute long speeches. So that's times. Remember before how we need numerators and denominators in order to multiply? So right off the bat, I can make this 15 over 1. And I can make this, I need to make it an improper fraction, so I go 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. This is going to be 3/2. And I could look to simplify. 15 and 2 don't share a factor, and 3 and 1 don't either. So I can just do 15 times 3, that's 45. 1 times 2 is 2. 45 divided by 2, that's 22, because 22 times 2 is 44, so there's 1 left over, 22.5. The answer to A is 22.5, and it's minutes, because we're talking about minute speeches. 22.5 minutes, that's how long it will take. Does that seem like a reasonable answer? I think it does, because if all the 15 students gave a 1 minute long speech, it would be 15 minutes. And then if you add a little bit more to that, then it'd be 22.5. Yeah, that seems reasonable. So let's move on. One thing it's important to note that before we do it's important to recognize that we have to get A right. You can't get the whole thing right if you don't get A right. So if you got that wrong, please fix it. All right, question B reads, if the teacher begins recording on a digital camera with an hour available, so pay attention to that, we have an hour available. Is there enough time to record everyone if she gives a 15-minute introduction at the beginning of class and every student takes a minute to get ready? So there's a lot there. She is going to give an introduction. That's 15 minutes. We need to add to that the students getting ready. Every student takes a minute to get ready. Well, there's 15 students, and they all take a minute to get ready. How much time is that? It's 15 minutes. So we need to add up her 15-minute introduction. I can keep track of this right here if I wanted to. Her 15-minute, I guess it's, I don't know if it's her, whatever. Yep, it is. Her 15-minute introduction. This is the students getting ready. 15 students times 1 minute. Does that make sense? And then we've got to add their speeches time. We've got 22.5 minutes that we figured out from A. So if you add all those up, is it going to be an hour? Well, let's find out. 15 and 15 is 30. 30 and 22 would be 52. 52.5 minutes. And an hour is 60 minutes. So do we have enough time? The answer is yes, we do. I'll go ahead and type. We have enough time because 15 plus 15 plus 22.5 is equal to 52.5 minutes. Good. We have time left over, and the time left over is actually addressed in the next question. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this stuff and move the board down. Question C says, how much time is left on the digital camera? So we need to go over here in some white space. We can do C up here. If we started with 60 minutes, and we have to subtract 52.5, how much time is left? I want to show you that it's not 8.5. A lot of kids get 8.5 here because they do 60 minus 52. They get 8, and then they bring this half down, which makes sense to me, but it's not 8.5. It's 7.5. And here's why it's 7.5. You can't just do nothing minus 1/2, and that's where you're supposed to subtract first. You're supposed to subtract the fraction first. So how do you subtract when there's no fraction here? We need to make a fraction. You can't just make a fraction out of thin air. You got to go borrow one. So instead of 60, I'm going to make this 59. And how much did I just borrow? I borrowed a minute, and a minute is the same as a whole, so I'm going to put a whole here. 2/2. I want you to pay attention how I didn't change the value. This is still worth 60. 59 plus this one whole right here is worth 60. But now I rewrote it so I have a fraction to subtract. 2/2 minus 1/2 is a half. And 59 minus 52 is 7. The answer is 7.5 minutes left. Okay, we're going to do one more problem. It will be the hot question number 24, and then we're going to skip the last two. Let's go check that out. Number 24. She wants to buy this bike, Kate. Kate wants to buy a new bicycle from a sporting goods store. The bicycle she wants normally sells for $360. You can see it right there, $360. The store has a sale where all bicycles cost 5/6 of the regular price. What is the sale price? How are we going to figure that out? We're going to multiply 5/6 times 360. And this might look complicated and difficult, but really it's not that bad. I can do it in the white space right over here by the bike. I'm going to change 360 into a fraction of 360 over 1. Now the difficult way to do this would be to do 5 times 360. The easy way to do this is to try to simplify. Does 6 go into both 6 and 360? Of course it does. So I'm going to simplify by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. And this one might seem complicated, but it's really not. 6 goes into 36 6 times, which means 6 goes into 360 60 times. If you don't believe me, just divide 360 by 6. What do you get? You get 60. Do you notice what I did there? I said, I'm going to undo that and re-explain that real quick. I may not know that 6 goes into 360, but I do know it goes into 36. If there was no 0 here, I would say, yeah, 6 goes into itself once, and 6 goes into 36 6 times. But then I've got the 0 to deal with, so it's not 6, it's 60. And I could just check my work. What is 60 times 6? It's 6 times 6 is 36. With this 0 makes 360. Anyway, back to the problem. Now I've got my denominators are 1 times 1, that's 1. My numerators are 5 times 60. That's just like 5 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. With this 0 right here, annex 0, it's 300. 300 over 1 is the same as $300. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this up. I'm going to rewrite my answer for 24 so you can see it. $300. And we're going to skip both 25 and 26. So please go ahead and write skip on those lines. And you are now done with page 84. You're ready for the checkup and the quiz. Good job.